Welcome to NewsNation's Backscroll, where we look back at our major news coverage on the most important topics and personalities of our time.
You spoke with the experts. What was their take?
They were totally flabbergasted by it, Natasha. What they couldn't explain was how an object like that had no visible means of propulsion. As Peter Reali explained in that interview, there is an issue with the fact that on a thermal signature, such as the camera is displaying there, you should see a hot point for an exhaust, maybe a rocket motor or a propeller. There's no evidence of any kind of heat source. And this is part of a broader phenomenon that's being seen not just in Arizona, but right across this area of New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona. I'm getting a lot of people contacting me about this particular type of object, this cigar-shaped object. Some people describe it as the Tic Tac, a slightly stubby cigar-shaped object. There are a lot of people telling me they're seeing this shape and image, and it doesn't display the kind of propulsion system or the kind of thermal signature that you'd expect to see. One of the things that's really fascinating now, Natasha, and the reason why this is becoming more of an issue, I suspect these objects have been around for a very long time, but what's happening is the ease with which we can now procure technology such as infrared cameras in our phones, which allow us to capture these images in ways that we couldn't even 5 or 10 years ago. And so a lot of people have been contacting me. I get literally thousands of these a week from people telling me that they're seeing strange objects, be they the cigar. I haven't had anybody send me a rubber duck, but they've sent me plenty of images of anomalous objects, including, by the way, the jellyfish. And I can't explain it, but what is not explainable is good scientists like the Scientific Coalition for the Studies of UAPs in Huntsville have had a look at these videos, and they just haven't been able to provide an explanation for them. They are truly anomalous. And at what point do we acknowledge as a country that this is an issue? This is an issue of national security. We have objects breaching our airspace which are seriously inexplicable, even to known conventional science. This should be a national security and flight safety issue. What do the agencies do? They bury their head in the sands.
Yeah, speaking of the jellyfish, a UAP you just brought up, a NewsNation viewer has a question for you specifically about that. We will ask you closer to the end of the show. You had a firsthand experience seeing potential UAP drone sightings through night vision goggles with a UFO tour guide. Can you tell me more about that? Did you see anything, and what were your takeaways from that experience?
Okay, so Melinda Leslie operates a UAP spotting business in Sedona, Arizona. And I've been hearing about Melinda's work for quite some time, and she's got superb third-generation night vision goggles, top-of-the-line $10,000 night vision goggles. And these allow you to see amplified light. And we've been hearing from witnesses who've actually been stopped by men with guns, with uniforms on, in parts of the remote Bureau of Land Management land, in and around the coyly named Secret Mountain, just a few kilometres from Sedona. We've been told by many locals that there are weird things that have been going on in that area. People have been stopped by men with guns in an area that's not known or acknowledged to be a military site, and they've been told to get the heck out of there as fast as possible. In one case, one of the witnesses described seeing a vehicle that had stopped him going down a ramp that had opened hydraulically in a hillside and concealing to be essentially looking like just a simple wall of normal rock. There's something going on. There are a lot of people who believe there is an incredible as this may sound, an underground facility located near Sedona. It's an allegation that's been around for quite a few years, and we spent a lot of time investigating it. And I do think it has validity. I've actually spoken to people who claim to have been inside this facility. And so what Melinda's night vision goggles captured were, and I saw it for myself, an orb-shaped object, gigantic golden orb-shaped object coming up from behind Secret Mountain near Sedona, pulsing, like almost pulsing, like a plasmatic glow, and then it lifted slowly and then took off,
Ross,
chased
you
by.
saw this. You saw this
I
in
saw it.
during your investigation on the ground. This was tracked on camera for 40 minutes, and you were finding it was going in circles. How significant is that detail, and what are you taking away from this rubber duck incident?
Well, the fact that it was going in circles is disproving any suggestion that it was just a balloon floating randomly with the prevailing winds. It was intelligently controlling itself and circling a specific area, which we actually searched with ground penetrating radar just to see if there was anything there. What fascinates me is you have a situation now where military pilots, civilian pilots, Customs Border Protection, local civilian witnesses are reporting with frequency anomalous objects doing what apparently seem to be intelligently controlled maneuvers over remote parts of the Arizona desert. And the question we asked was, could there be something happening in Arizona that's not being publicly disclosed by the US government? And that's actually what led us in the latter part of the program to head up towards Sedona. I do think that what is possibly happening, we know from the stories that I've done previously with people like Jake Barber and David Grush, we know that there are allegations of a legacy UAP retrieval program that is retrieved, unbelievable as this may sound, unbelievable but true, non-human intelligence technology. And we know that there are locations, hidden locations, where this technology is being experimented with and worked with. And I think there's a body of evidence to suggest that there are perhaps non-human and perhaps some human technologies operating in this airspace. That's what my takeaway is. I don't think that this is an incursion by organised crime cartels from Mexico. I do think that what we need to look at here is the very real possibility that the Customs and Border Protection stumbled across some kind of craft that are, in some cases, emanating from covert US government facilities that the US is trying to keep quiet. And I do worry about the fact that the US is still maintaining the pretense that it has no knowledge of the existence of any kind of non-human technology, because it's becoming very, very clear good people in different agencies, notably in this case Bob Thompson from CBP, they're seeing these things. Military pilots are seeing these things. And what do we do to these people? We gaslight them. And the government tells them they're not seeing what they're seeing. And I can tell you, Natasha, there are a lot of witnesses who, frankly, are sick to death of being gaslit. They're coming forward and they're determined to get this story told. And I think there's pressure now on the government to be more transparent about what it knows.
And Ross, tell me a little bit more about whistleblower and former Border Patrol agent Bob Thompson. What was his journey to bring these videos to light? And what has this reporting process been like for you? I know it's a rigorous one.
So Bob's somebody who has been working in national security. He's been keeping our borders secure, and he ended up in essentially the aviation wing of Customs and Border Protection, making sure that there was adequate monitoring over our borders. And as we know, this has been a controversial issue. It was a major election issue for the incoming administration. There's been a lot of political capital made out of pointing out the fact that our borders were, frankly, wide open. And I got to see that myself with our correspondent Ali Bradley on the border. So Bob was concerned that inside CBP, when he was raising his concerns about these anomalous objects being seen by CBP aircraft and by military witnesses that he'd spoken to, there just seemed to be an inertia. Nothing was happening. And I don't think it's a conspiracy, Natasha. I don't think there are people inside Customs and Border Protection who are basically saying, we've got to cover this up. More often than not, the explanation is a simple screw up. Nobody wants to admit that they have no explanation. And so whilst these objects are breaching airspace and coming into areas that are sensitive and getting in the way of military aircraft, and in one case we know about even colliding with them, I think the problem for Bob's bosses was they determined to put their heads in the sand because it's just too hard. How do you explain something that you can't control? And this is the bigger issue with the drones incursions. So we have a huge problem, frankly, where drones are breaching US airspace and the US government is putting its head in the sand on the issue.
Some are speculating that these mysterious drones could be new drones the cartels could be utilizing. To talk more about drones at the border is Ron Vitello, Senior Advisor of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection to the Trump administration. Ron, good to see you tonight. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for inviting me.
We've reported that Border Patrol agents have seen hundreds of drones a day from cartels. Some of them, though, cannot be explained by Border Patrol agents, including one in Tucson. What do you know about anomalous drone activity along the border?
Well, it's very interesting. I think it parallels a little bit what we saw in New Jersey earlier in the year, right? No one knew where those drones were doing, where they came from. Eventually, I think they got to the bottom of it and they realized there was sanctioned activity. These cartels are enormously powerful, and they use drones every day along our southwest border to surveil agents, kind of counter surveillance missions. They bring drugs across, and they attack Mexican authorities on their side of the border. And so the anomalous ones, they've got unlimited funding, and so maybe they have technology that we're not used to seeing, in the drone space, and certainly on our own border.
Yeah, we saw some of this leaked video for the first time last night from a Border Patrol whistleblower. Some of these anomalous objects did not have heat signatures, appeared ice cold on the footage. What did you make of the new leaked video of these mysterious sightings along the border?
Well, again, this is something that we need to be careful about. The risks that involve the agents that are on the line there, the border communities as well. I suspect that this is the cartel on the cutting edge of technology, using different techniques, maybe different kinds of machines. This is what they do. That's part of their business model, to always be able to iterate and innovate so that they can continue to sell their poison into the United States.
I see. So before your mind goes to alien or extraterrestrial intelligence, you think the cartels could be behind these unexplained objects in the sky?
Well, we know that they're already using drugs at the southwest border. Again, for counter surveillance, to bring contraband into the United States. So it wouldn't surprise me that they have some emerging technology or have innovated it on their own. The government's learned quite a bit in the war in Ukraine. Both sides have taken drones to a more lethal and more surreptitious way. Right, they can fly now without the kinds of things that they would have had to use a couple of years ago. So this iteration by the cartels is nothing new with regard to tunnels, offshore capabilities, stuff that they do at the border just to continue to bring their poison in.
We were speaking with NewsNation's Ross Coulthart last hour, who said that the instinct of the government is to dismiss or cover up these incursions. And in fact, that former Border Patrol agent, Bob Thompson, did initially bring this to the attention of his superiors. What does all of this say about transparency in our country? Do you think that Border Patrol is doing enough to rigorously investigate what's happening here?
Well, I think that it's been reported. It's in the investigative stages. There are authorities in the United States, like the FAA, that will be very concerned about unlicensed unmanned drones. But we do have this problem at the southwest border, right? These cartels don't follow any of the rules that we must follow to detect drones, to take them into custody, or to prevent them from coming into the United States.
Ron Vitello, appreciate your time tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thanks.
And in it, the Department of Defense says there is no. However, the DoD is developing, quote, gremlin capability to help personnel collect real-time UAP data. Joining us now is Ben Hansen, host of Discovery Plus's UFO Witness. You've been reading through these 60 pages so far. What's the top line? What is the takeaway?
Right. So there's a lot of information in here. I think what surprised me, first of all, is they've got very granular, very detailed into making rebuttals against some of these claims. In the public, we had no idea what the allegations were until now. And so they're actually talking about specific programs, alleged programs of reverse engineering, So yes, you're correct. They have denied that any of these investigations have resulted, quoting even one case of UAP representing off-world technology. I don't know what we expected them to say. And also, though, they said the majority of the interviewees' claims they've been able to disprove, but some are still under evaluation. One of the really cool things is they actually acknowledged that one of the programs in the intelligence community was expanded to include reverse engineering. So that would be crash retrievals. They said it was de-established because later it was deemed unwarranted. So why would you create a program in the first place to look at reverse engineering if there wasn't any evidence concern of it?
Right. So let's dive into that a little bit more, because the claim has been that there is a retrieval program, that foreign alien craft has been found, and we haven't seen evidence of it yet. Witnesses say that they have seen it by firsthand or secondhand knowledge. So what are they saying here, that it does or doesn't exist?
Well, it looks, as we're going through this, they named the program. There's a program they said called Kona Blue that did exist. It was an expansion of an existing program, and then it was de-established. So if there's one, like, are there others?
So they're saying a program existed, but it didn't find anything, right? That we had this program, but we have nothing.
Exactly. They did not recover any craft. It existed just in case. I mean, it sounds a bit odd that they would even create it in the first place. But there's little nuggets like this, and I think it's going to take days, if not weeks and months, to sift through. They call this Volume 1, and they have a Volume 2. I believe it'll be coming out, but they're going line by line through the whole history back in the 40s and 50s of how each UFO program assessed this situation.
Does it do anything to lift the curtain of transparency on this highly reported and peculiar issue?
To be honest, I think it's just going to fuel the fire on both sides. The way that this took place with the briefing was a little bit disingenuous, I would say, in not inviting all of the media and press to the press conference. There's a lot of talk about that and why that was not transparent. And now that it's out, they would, I think, like to just kind of sweep it under the rug and say case closed. But yet, Dr. Gary Nolan, made a great point on Twitter, and he said, if you're claiming that the evidence shows there's no evidence, the evidence must be released now. So not releasing that data tells him that something else is being hidden. So in essence, everything that's in the report now has to come out. It's available and classified so that other scientists can review this and say, okay, yes, we come to the same conclusion.
Right, disproving it. But if there is no evidence, how can you share it, right, if we have no evidence?
Well, they obviously talk to somebody. They talk about all the people they talk to. So how did they come to that conclusion in the first place, right? If you got interviewees saying, hey, I actually touched the craft, or I saw testing of the craft. So that is at least their firsthand evidence. But you're right. If we don't have reports, we don't have the physical evidence. In fact, they do talk about testing some of the metal that was alleged to be, from another worldly craft. And that came back as nothing more than terrestrial. So they look like, I would give them credit that I did not expect this report to be so detailed. There are actual things we can grasp a hold of and say, okay, let's look at this, let's look at that. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that their boss is the same boss of the agencies they've been asked to investigate.
I want to bring in two people who say they've actually seen UAP, essentially UFOs, firsthand. We've all seen it in the video, too. The Pentagon shared it publicly. Sean Cahill is a former Navy chief who saw the so-called Tic Tac in 2004, and Alex Dietrich is a retired Navy lieutenant commander who also saw the Tic Tac. That video is unbelievable. It's really an honor to have both of you with us tonight. First of all, I want to ask you, Alex, first, what did you make of David Grush's story? I know you've seen the interview. Do you find it believable?
There's a lot to unpack there. I'm not familiar with the sources that he's referring to. I'm certainly not familiar with the hard evidence, the data, or any physical evidence that he referred to there. But what I do know is that I saw something strange in 2004, November 14, 2004. It's been referred to as the Nimitz encounter or the Tic Tac incident. And when we reported it at the time, and in years since, even today, it's my understanding that aircrew operators, folks who see something, don't have a good protocol. They don't have a good process to report it. So you ride the subway and you see a billboard that says, if you see something, say something. There's an easy way to report a suspicious package. But if you're seeing something in the sky that doesn't make sense, looks out of place, especially around a military exercise or near a civilian city center, especially with the events of 9/11 still so fresh in our hearts and our minds, we need to have a protocol in place. We need to have folks who are dedicated in a system to report these and analyze these unidentified phenomenon.
Yeah, and that seems to be the bigger issue here, regardless of whether you're a skeptic or a believer. The problem here seems to be that we don't have a system, a good, real, honest system where people can come forward who are in the military and actually report things and not to be made to look crazy and that kind of thing. Sean, I have to ask you, when you first saw the Tic Tac, along with a number of other people in the area and who were on the ship, I mean, did people take you seriously? Did you feel like you were being made fun of, or did you feel like the military was open to hearing what you guys actually saw?
During the week of that exercise, we took it very seriously. There was no real ridicule on board until after the fact, when we were all trying to figure out what had happened. That was when we were making jokes and making light of the situation. But during the situation, we took it very seriously because there was an unknown aircraft in the vicinity of our battle group. I have to say that I cannot say with assurance that what I saw was the same thing that Commander Fravor or Commander Dietrich saw. I saw 5 to 7 lights in the sky move in a pattern that I'd never seen before throughout that point, decade of my career, and now 20 years worth, that seems commensurate with UAP. But I can say that this is something I followed for the last 5 years since the 2017 article came out, and I've worked diligently at it, usually 24/7, as we say. This is a very present phenomenon now. It is not just that strange thing that I saw in the sky one time.
I think the difference here, though, Ross, is when Sean and Alex talk about what they saw, we've got the video to back it up. And we've now got accounts from a number of people in the military who saw the very same thing. So it's easy to accept that. It's hard to go from seeing this video and saying, okay, this is not explainable and clearly is something strange going on, to we have these crafts in our possession, we have bodies, there is a secret Cold War. I just think it's hard to make that leap for Americans when there's no hard evidence, when we can't see video or pictures.
I completely agree with you. And I think that's why Mr. Grush is saying that people need to get Congress to hold the hearings where this evidence can be brought to light. He's not expecting people to believe him straight off, frankly. He's hoping that people will be skeptical. But what he's hoping, and what I think a lot of people are hoping, is that Congress will suddenly find the courage to start demanding answers, because I know evidence has been presented to Senate committees particularly, and I know that there's been meetings in the Congress attended by senators where information has been discussed relating to the crash retrieval program. And I also, by the way, have information that suggests the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, attended at least one of these meetings. So I think the president probably, or at least his most senior advisor, does know. And we're in a situation now where it's incumbent on the Congress and the president to be open about the fact that it doesn't appear to be forthcoming with that evidence.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.